What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the CLOL Championship coverage here on Salty Runback. My name is Gordo. I'm joined today by Quacks, but also by a couple of special guests. We've got Colthrow and Shogo in today to break down the Northwood versus Fisher College series. Welcome to the broadcast, guys. How are you all doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Very good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, happy to have you guys on here, and a bit of a spice to be put onto the analyst desk now with 4 people. It's certainly going to be interesting. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us today on the broadcast.
Of course. Yeah, excited to be here. I think it should be, Fisher Northwood. It should be a interesting match considering, the rosters, everything that's been happening with the roster on Fisher's side.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, guys. It's sure to be a banger of a series, and let's take a look at our bracket to kick things off, just to see where exactly we're at over the course of the day. Already gotten a couple of series in to start things off, where we just saw St. Louis take a 3-1 win over Winthrop. You can see that down at the bottom. St. Louis University now waiting in the lower semifinals to face off against whoever's going to be able to come home with it today. Likely will be coming in as underdogs, as St. Louis University looking very, very strong ever since they've dropped on down here to UST.
For sure. And,
Go ahead.
All you.
I do think that, I agree. I think SLU should demolish whoever enters this match after, whether it be Northwood or Fisher. I do believe it will be Fisher, but whoever enters that, I'm pretty sure they'll be 3-0'd by SLU. Probably won't be any trouble for them.
I actually think stylistically Northwood matches SLU a lot better than Fisher does, but I do have Fisher as favorites to win this one. I think Northwood plays better as a team. Fisher comes into every week with a different roster. They have talented players, but we haven't really seen them play as a team as much as Northwood does. So I think Northwood actually would have a decent chance against SLU. But we'll see how this series goes. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah,
I actually heavily agree with that, Shogo. I think that in particular, you have Northwood. They have been, kind of brothers in arms throughout the entire tournament. And I think that kind of cohesion is definitely an advantage that they'll be coming into with this series against a team like Fisher, who have, like you said, swapped around their roster pretty frequently, swapped around the players pretty often. And I am 100% looking forward to seeing if Fisher can kind of come together here in this series, because we are in the lower bracket, right? This is an end-all be-all, do or die kind of time for both of these squads.
All right, and with that, do want to get into today's schedule. You can see we already played Winthrop SLU. We got Fisher College versus Northwood coming on up next, and that's all that there is to say for today. So let's give a quick shout-out over to the GoFundMe once again here. Shout-out to everybody who has contributed already to the broadcast. Thank you so much. It has been absolutely critical to being able to put on today's show. And shout-out, of course, to Gen G and Ole Miss in particular for their sponsorship of the broadcast. That said, it is going to be time to get into looking at today's matchup in particular. Fisher College taking on Northwood. We're going to start things off with the Fisher College roster, which may be a little surprised here. Bajani coming in on the top lane and Rollick still rocking it in mid lane, guys. What are you thinking about this one, Colthrow?
I think some people might underrate Bajani. I think he's still a pretty strong top laner. I would say I'm still going to give him the edge for Fisher's side in this particular series. But definitely known to be a bit weaker than Bob Jenkins. And I mean this does kind of it's kind of trouble for Fisher here, because you'd both consider both these guys to be kind of downgrades from their former counterparts, Serenok and Jenkins. But I do think that the core of having like a jungle support to kind of lead the team still, I think they'll still hold their own.
Absolutely here. And Shogo, looking at this one as well, I mean, You feel pretty strongly about the changes coming on in. Like, how does it feel to you to have the roster swapping on up at kind of the last minute here at the witching hour as
I
these guys
think it
continue to
depends
come in with a
on
different squad each week?
yeah, I think it depends on how well adjusted Fisher are to making those changes because I think it can definitely throw off Northwood and their prep. You know, like you prepare for a cannon and then you get hit with a Camille. It could throw them off a little bit. And Ralik has a different playstyle from Serenok, so it just is up to Poom and Keel, I feel like, to lead the team and make sure they're all still on the same page with all these changes.
I
Feeling
think
to
that
that.
Keel is I think that Keel is definitely the one that I have my eyes on as well. You know, not only as like a staple of the team, along with Poom kind of, you know, leading the front lines, but also the fact that, you know, he's been on this squad the entire time, right? I mean, you look at this Fisher throughout the years document, this updated one rather, and the only constant has been Keel.
Yeah, definitely here. I mean, they've ran a whole bunch of different squads throughout the past couple of weeks, and I've got a new theory going for where they're getting all these decisions from. All right, I'd like to introduce everybody to the wheel of Fisher College. All right, this is how I'm guessing we're starting to pick what rosters coming in on any given week because as we showed on that previous graphic, right, it's been brand new stuff each and every time. We've gotten players in different roles. We've gotten players coming in who haven't been playing through the entire CLOL tournament up until today. Like, this is going to be Bajani's first games of the championship so far. I mean, it really just feels like they could be coming out of nowhere. You know, take a guess for yourself. If you're coming in on this tournament and you haven't seen any of the games so far, which items on here are real, which ones are made up? You could only guess.
I think Bajani is a really slept on player. I think he's a strong laner. He has side lane pressure. He has experience. And I've seen him tear through NA solo queue in the past couple of weeks. So I'm excited to watch him play again. And I think stylistically matches well into Iso. Iso primarily plays tanks. You know, Bajani's very happy to lock in the Camille, lock in the Fiora, do it himself, you know, take it to the side lane and duke it out. So I think stylistically not a bad matchup for top lane. We'll have to see how mid lane does with Ralik against Repi. I think Talia Prio is going to be insanely high for Fisher. Jinx
Mhm.
Prio is going to be insanely high as always. But yeah, we'll have to see how these drafts play out.
Yeah, I think I hope they just pick Jinx every game. Leave Valen on an island and kind of let Bajani do his thing. It's kind of what I'm expecting to happen here. Kind of let Keel play at the top. Leave bot lane to just do whatever. I don't necessarily think Enthralled or Clyde are going to kind of push Fisher in any way, shape or form. I honestly just want to see Jinx every single game with like you said, the Talia.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, let's get into Northwood here a little bit. Start chatting about who their opposition is going to be. It's going to be the roster you know and love. No changes coming through here. It's Iso, RBM, Repi, Enthralled, and Clyde. These guys, they have been on a little bit of a tear here, already exceeding expectations with this top six. Now, looking to see if they can push it even further. Start off with Shogo. I mean, how are you feeling about these guys' journey so far?
Um, I think it's the RBM show. I'll be honest. RBM is very talented, very good at the game, good at leading his team to do what he wants to be done. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to see how deep he can make the run with these guys.
Sure. Cutthroat, you're the jungle expert here. Heard some rumors, some discussion a little bit. RBM, where exactly do you think he falls in the remaining six, now remaining five junglers in the tournament? As a lot of these guys, coming from NACL, coming from having experience at those top levels, how are you looking at RBM in that context?
I would say if you're looking at all six on paper, I would say he's definitely like 5 or 6. But based off just performance, I think some junglers have looked a bit shaky that are still here. So he could definitely kind of show up on the day and kind of like storm them by surprise. I think Keel historically has been like one of the strongest junglers we've had in amateur and if you want to call it NACL Academy now. And now that he's in Seal, it's great. Unfortunately, I don't think the meta fits Keel as much as it does RBM right now. So I could see RBM getting the better of him in a couple of games.
I certainly think that both junglers have their strengths in terms of how the team kind of plays around them. You can see by the by sort of the graphic here highlighting some pop off games from both junglers that they clearly have their style of play. Right, you have players like CLOL, where I agree that the meta kind of suits him more. Champions like the Skarner, like the Rek'Sai, are very high priority for early game aggression, and that's exactly what Keel likes to do. Meanwhile, I feel like you look at RBM and you have the Kindred, obviously, is the big standout. But that's more so a champion that wants that kind of priority and is, I feel, a lot more reliant on kind of how
Dragon
the
Cloud
lane
Soul
shift.
going to go in their favor, and now maybe a dive once again against Riki. They really dislike.
And yeah, I completely agree with you there, Quacks. It's a great call out, and it's going to be a really big featured matchup here between these two sets of junglers. I do think that graphic almost misleads you a little bit about what RBM is bringing to the table, too, because it shows 3 games of Kindred, but this guy, I think, has been busting out some of the spiciest jungle picks that we've gotten to see the whole tournament long. He has been playing. We saw that Kha'Zix on there. The Karthus came out. The Gwen came out as well in their matchup up against UST. Not always finding the most success, but definitely bringing a little bit of spice to the jungle role that most other folks aren't willing to play here. I mean, if we're talking about that one, Shogo, how does that feel to play up against?
I think RBM is really talented and is very scary on carry champions, but I think in that way he's a little bit limited. Like, if you go up against Northwood, you know that they don't really have a super carry except for jungle. So if you are able to force RBM on like a pick that is not a solo carry, like force him to go on the Sejuani and force him to go on those tanks, I think Northwood loses a lot of their power.
That makes sense. And Colthrow on your side, right? Seeing somebody who's willing to play, some of that more hard carry role from the jungler. Do you feel like that really gives you a lot of additional routes to play, or do you think it can kind of end up pigeonholing yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, I do think you kind of end up pigeonholing yourself, especially with this team, right? I think he is. I agree with Shogo. I think Repi has some really good games. Repi is probably one of the better players left in, one of the better mids left in Seals. It's probably, I would consider him and RBM the best players on their team, which it kind of leaves their team to be a bit, pigeonholed, as we were saying. Mid jungle is kind of the name of the game here, and if they don't win through mid jungle, I don't necessarily give them good odds. If it were me, I would be targeting RBM every game, kind of banning. I would honestly ban three jungle carries every game and see what he's going to do next, because I think he would get as I keep saying, pretty pigeonholed there as more and more carries get taken off.
For sure. And now, we got a little bit of predictions from both of you guys pre-game. I heard a 3-1 for Fisher from both of you. Talent predictions puts you guys in the minority a little bit. Let's start off with Quacks to kind of, you're speaking for all the talent as a whole here, Quacks. What makes you favor Northwood? And then let's hear what Colthrow and Shogo have flame-wise to try to put you down.
I mean, obviously, I don't know these players nearly as well, but I would definitely say that throughout, the tenure that we've seen Northwood have in the CLOL Championship, they have definitely upset a lot of teams and being able to kind of be that dark horse. I keep kind of calling them that, a team that shouldn't necessarily, or kind of the underdogs in a way. And now I feel like have transitioned rather into a dark horse as a team that can legitimately upset, some of these larger teams like Fisher. And I'm expecting that here, like Colthrow highlighted, I think that this team does kind of die by the mid-jungle talent pool of RBM and Repi working together. But I feel like the rest of the team also has a lot going for them. In particular, I think ISO, has those pocket picks that so many teams have underestimated. And I think Fisher might be underestimating it here.
All right. Colthrow, let's start off with you. What's pushing you in the Fisher direction here as we start to get into draft number 1?
I do think, like we've been saying, RBM and Repi are pretty good. I do think that Keel is better, and I do think that, if it were Serenok in the mid lane, that he would also be better than Repi. So I do think, stylistically, it's a pretty bad mismatch for them, especially with a player such as Bajani in the top lane. This guy should theoretically, if they find out that ISO plays a very specific style of champions, like most people should, they should realize that Bajani can kind of take over every single game with at least counter pick top. So in my opinion, they should be able to kind of stonewall them. I could see RBM, having a great game on Kindred if Fisher leave it up, and kind of taking the game over that way, with a kind of a Kindred Galio maybe. But for the most part, I do think, we have a former LCS player in Poom. We have former, insanely talented academy player in Keel. I think they can take it.
Shogo, you in alignment there, or do you have a different X factor that you're really looking at out of Fisher here? As it looks like first pick for Northwood going to be coming through here in just a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I agree. I think Poom and Keel have what it takes to kind of carry the series. Bajani, as we mentioned, is very happy just side laning on his champions. Like he's gonna pull the TF, he's gonna pull the Camille. Like he's a confident player. He's been here before. I'm not a huge fan of the Kalista instantly. Like that kind of goes against what we said their strength was, of just like letting DMK stand alone and let Poom run around with Keel and do his thing. Kalista kind of requires the entire team to play around her. And we already have a Talia against us. So I am not super happy locking in the Kalista here, but it has been a really big power pick, and we'll see how Northwood answers that.
I actually think a probable answer from Northwood could potentially be the Poppy. If you continue to punish this Kalista further, you can also kind of mess with the Skarner a little bit. He comes out of a wall, you slam him directly into the wall. So I would be looking at that to potentially be a ban now that we have the first 3 picks from Northwood unlocked. You can see we have the Maokai plus the Xayah. So those pocket picks coming back for Northwood here. You can see Izo potentially back on his favorite champion, the grandfather of Maokai himself, reclaiming what is rightfully his.
Yeah, I mean, Izo having such a run here so far. Sorry, Coldthroat. Do want to hear your thoughts here, but for those who don't really know, this is almost certainly going to be a Maokai top for Izo, right? This guy, on his last dance here with Northwood, has been having such a tremendous run on his Maokai, on his tank tops in particular, and Maokai going to be first and foremost among those.
Yeah, I never foresee the Maokai going anywhere else. It's kind of been out of the support pool for a while now, and I don't ever foresee RBM picking it up. I do believe they tried putting Maokai, kind of flexing Maokai around while they're in the north. Versus ISU did not go very well for them having RBM off of a carry. So I do think that
it's just a bluff. It's like, guys, we can flex it, but in reality, it's just going top, guys. You're not fooling anybody. I do like the Renata. I'm not a super big fan of the Xayah. Fisher has not committed to any dive at all, and they already have a lot of disengage tools. So I would have loved to see something with more range, something like Aphelios, coming from Fisher. But we'll see how the Xayah does here.
The Skarner Ori seems like it's gonna be something hard for Talia to deal with, since Skarner E does go through Talia E. Does not stop him at all. He has no problem getting through that. I think they can permagank mid and or just move from mid. I would I'm kind of thinking that they're just going to keep going bot over and over again through mid. The Skarner will go to Keel. Skarner and Ori will move to bot over and over. And the Viego is locked in. I do think, Talia, Viego, with the melee support, Viego can be a pretty strong pick, so I do like that. But into the Renata, into kind of those characters that don't really care about Viego getting on them is kind of scary.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there. And
this R5'd Kindred here and sent a Skarner top. How banger would that be?
That would be a banger. We've already seen Izo's done it, man. I've been calling out this whole tournament. There's no tank jungler that Izo will not play top lane.
Skarner's a really strong top laner, and Keel has been known for his Kindred for a while. I would want to see Keel on Kindred right now.
Yeah, absolutely here. And this is going to be the first game for Rollick off of the Talia in his CLOL run so far. It's kind of just been 3 games so far, so it's going to be an interesting one to check out from Fisher for sure as we get into game number 1. Thanks so much, Coldthroat and Shogo. We'll see you guys after game as Northwood is taking on Fisher. Game number 1 of the best of 5. Winner makes top 4. Loser is going home.
And it's such a do or die matchup here for both teams. Like you said, loser goes home. And both of these teams, they have had such high highs in this series. Northwood being able to make it so far when so many people rated them low, called them frauds, now being able to make the top 6 and just one step closer to making, you know, that top 4, that would be such a big deal for them. And Fisher, on the other hand, they have been, you know, known to be a very prominent org when it comes to CLOL. So some expectations riding on them to be able to win this one. So both teams have a lot going for them. Both orgs and programs have a lot of expectations and pressure riding on them. And it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes up here in game 1.
Yeah, it definitely will be here. I mean, Fisher, like you said, should have some expectations with some of the names they've gotten on this roster, but there's been some fracturing of that roster. They haven't been able to put together the full team that kind of got them to this point, but that hasn't slowed them down too much. Obviously, they drop in their upper bracket round and come on down here, but the performance in their lower bracket matchup up against St. Clair, I think, was quite commendable. Rallick especially coming in as a substitute, really popping off in that 3-0 sweep. To see if he can keep that performance up now against Reppy, stealing away his Talia.
For sure doesn't have, you know, his famous Talia with him, so it'll be interesting to see how he plays the mid matchup. I would imagine that the lane early on, probably just going to see a lot of ping-ponging between the mid laners. What I'm really interested to see, though, is how the junglers are going to kind of play around that mid wave, right? How they are going to kind of react to this bot lane, which they are both pathing to, and will both likely be seen because you can see those wards have been dropped on the mini-map, so both teams will spot out the respective enemy junglers on their pathing. You can see Keel spotted out by that ward. So I wonder if the, you know, how the map is going to be influenced by the fact that so much pressure is going to be shown here on this bot lane.
For sure. So RBM starts to move down towards the bottom half of his jungle. He is spotted on that ward. Won't be dissuaded too much, as both junglers just going for the full clear here early on. That early push has been secured for that Kalista Renata lane for DMK and Poom, as they're looking to get the worst crash in here. Still stuck at level 1 for Clyde and Enthralled. Reppy taking a quick little recall here after shoving a wave in as well.
RBM slightly ahead on the jungle timer, and you can see that ward was dropped in the tri-bush, so if RBM tries anything, will get spotted out. Doesn't have Prio in bot lane here, so I'd be really interested to see if he still tries to go for a gank here. Crab, probably not on the menu for him this time around, but just based on how he's posturing, I have to think he wants to try and influence, but no, he's actually just going to go straight for the recall.
Yeah, for sure. Meanwhile, Bajani starting to proxy the wave a little bit here, seeing what he can steal on away, keep the pressure up against Izo, knows that the Maokai probably not going to have the damage to threaten him. RBM did take a recall and is coming towards this side of the map, though. Probably where he wants to be going regardless. Bajani actually popped the Ghost just to run on out of here. Knows that he's at risk of getting cut off by Reppy. He's going to look for this recall. Spots out RBM, and that will give Bajani the indication that he's got to move back towards his side of the map.
Sneaky movements there from Bajani. He gets himself out, pops the Ghost like you said, but crucially drops down a lot of vision on the blue side of Northwood here. So now they'll be able to track where RBM is. And RBM, you know, is a player that we have been hyping up quite a bit as, you know, the big carry for Northwood. So being able to kind of know where he is, know his movements this early on, certainly stifles that snowball effect we've seen from him all sort of tournament long, I feel. He gets going and he doesn't really stop. So Fisher just preventing that ball from beginning to roll, definitely going to throw a wrench in Northwood's plan.
Yeah, it's really good on them to play this strategy centered around RBM and try to keep him on the back foot, especially when Keel's on such a high priority pick like this Skarner. It's going to just give him the opportunity to be able to be on even footing with RBM and maybe even have some clever gank paths to be able to get on ahead. We heard the call out that should have a good capability of ganking towards this Talia. Have to see if they will be able to do that. So far, Rallick's been the one who's pushed in for the most of the laning phase. Hasn't caused Keel to emerge from the jungle quite yet.
Keel actually pivoting away here. I think they know he was on the Raptors. They want to see if they can maybe cut him off. Actually, no, they're just going to start up the Dragon. They have the mid-priority. Shockwave is available for Rallick. And Reppy does not have any mana, so he can't really join this fight, which means Northwood can't contest.
Not any chance so far. It's not going to stop RBM from trying, though. He's
boy.
moving on up. Does get spotted by the control ward. Poom sees him. It looks like it is going to be a smite fight. The backup from the Northwood bot lane is on its way. Ghost has been popped by Enthralled, but Keel's just going to smite down the dragon. He Ishtal's impacts through the wall, and there's no response available there, so Summoner comes out of Enthralled, not too much else, and now he's taking a rough trade up against DMK.
And now I have to think that the eyes for RBM are going to be on those grubs that have just spawned. He has a little bit more of a friendly timer. He's going to finish up his second full clear here, take the reset, and maybe go for those. But the prio also doesn't favor him, so he has the choice to maybe try and impact one of, you know, these solo lanes. But you want to try and get something back. You want to try and find an avenue to get this ball rolling. If you're Northwood, you do not want RBM to get to, you know, around that 10-minute mark, that 14-minute mark, without really making an impact around the map.
Absolutely. So far, been a pretty close matchup around the map. A faint lead building up for DMK and Poom. Now Bajani making his way back up towards top, but Izo been able to hold his own just fine. Proxy farming notwithstanding. He's kept himself pretty up and even in CS. Will end up falling down about a wave on net. Keel gets caught trying to do the grubs, and he will get focused down. Hasn't been able to get over, and that's an easy first blood given over to Reppy. Northwood, first one's on the board.
Well played there by Reppy. He canceled the Ishtal's impact, made it impossible for Keel to escape, and Keel doesn't have the flash. He opted to go for the ghost, so no way to get over that pit wall, and just gets picked off by Reppy. Like you said, Gordo, now RBM will, got his assist, got a little bit of stuff on the map, and will be able to take that red buff away. So this Viego starting to ramp up a little bit, and Fisher just caught with their tail between their legs in the slightest of ways.
Definitely going to be a little bit of a gold lead over towards Northwood here, and getting it on towards Reppy, definitely huge for them. He's been playing a pretty slow farming matchup, but now looking to have some influence on the map. He's got the Weaver's Wall. He's already popped it coming into the bottom lane. There's going to be the punt in from Clyde, and Thrall is incredibly low. Flash and throw away from DMK, but now DMK's in too deep, able to jump back away with the Marshall Poise. And Fisher College, they managed to bail out their bottom lane. It costs both flashes for just Enthralled's flash, but Reppy losing farm in mid and going to give over this plate to Rollick.
Good little attempt there to onto Enthralled's life. He was very, very close to dying there, and that would have been a very good trade there for Fisher. We talked a little bit about how the Kalista might have been a little bit suboptimal in this game, as, hold on.
Oh, there's an all-out from Bajani, and in his first game of CLOL, looking for a solo kill, gonna find it! Izo drops, and Bajani comes out of the gate swinging with a mono-e-mono kill.
But Johnny manages to get the kill, and lives by the skin of his teeth, the shield, the time. So many times Izo win exchanges like that, but Johnny this game is saying not anymore. And just manages to smack him across the face, gets himself the solo kill, and the silent guardian of Cassante, you know, this champion that we haven't really been focusing too much on. But he always comes back, right? He comes back like a boomerang, to quote a famous musical artist. Every single team fight, he goes all out and just crushes team fights. So him getting that kill, him getting that extra little bit of gold, definitely worrying for Northwood.
And lost a big chunk of CS there as well. So now he's behind around 20, as well as given over that kill to Bajani. So a sizable gold lead held by Bajani. Is here's the impact heal, fishing around for Reppy. Reppy's gonna have to respectfully flash away, and that is just an easy peasy summoner coming out of the Northwood pockets as Fisher starts to take the lead.
That is a big summoner to get, especially with Reppy, who is, you know, getting a lead in his own right. Doesn't have the Weaver's Wall just yet, but I think that will come out. I think that will come off cooldown once this Dragon spawns, but Dragon is the next thing that I think both these teams have on their mind, and you can see Fisher College, definitely their primary objective with how they have been warding around that area. You can see how many red wards are on that bot side. There is not a single member of Northwood, there is not a single avenue that they can take without being spotted.
None to be found, so going to be Fisher just holding on to about a half a K lead. and chilling for the time being, but doing a good job of playing through a route that they've been playing through all season long, even with a different player. It's been Jenkins who's really been the rock for them in the top lane. We were a little worried about what they would look like with Bajani in, especially having not seen Bajani in so long, but he's doing a great job up against Izo on his signature pick in game number 1.
Oh yeah, managed to get the solo kill, has actually a really solid CS lead, 10 minutes in, nearly has almost, basically has 10 CS per minute, which is pretty insane against a champion like Maokai, who can knock you away from the wave and slow you around, kind of ping pong you around. So being able to get that big advantage, definitely going to pay dividends early on.
What a snag there. RBM found out on the nearly expiring ward, and Keel just stings him, pulls him right over. Get over here as he finds the kill.
Keel coming up big there. And they do get the dragon as a result. So 2 dragons as early as possible here for Fisher puts a lot of pressure on the bot side of the map here. In Northwood, they have got to try and respond, but how can you respond with this Cassante always in your face?
Another solo kill for Bajani. Reppy coming on up to try to bail him out. Will be able to clean up one. It's a 1-for-1 on the top side. Shut down gold over to Reppy. But yet again, Reppy comes over to make a play even. And meanwhile, Ralik is just shoving up mid lane. They're going to have to TP to respond.
Ralik, a little bit low on mana there. It's going to try and time this fight. Now, you have the Hex Gate, so the timers are a little bit accelerated for people to join fights on the grubs, which are probably on the minds of both teams here. You can see both junglers making their way up toward that top side. And if this goes over to Northwood, they will get 4 grubs for themselves, which will mean the mites will spawn. But if Keel just gets a couple of them, he could try and even up the score, but he doesn't have anyone around, so I don't think that's going to be a possibility here for Fisher.
And looking like this is going to make it 4 grubs over to Northwood, so they will get the first of the Void Mites. Try to keep that pressure on up while they're pushing in the side lanes, but not exactly what this comp is trying to do with the Maokai in the top lane, as they're going to start brawling again. A level advantage to Bajani now, as he's already completed that Hollow Radiance. Really starting to be able to flex that lead over the Maokai. Going to just be tough for him to continue to try to farm up, use that sap magic to stay topped off, as the CS lead just grows bigger and bigger. It's nearly 40 now.
Absolutely insane by Bajani. Kind of coming in as an underdog here, right? We talked a lot about, you know, other top laners from Fisher College, and Bajani kind of having some shoes to fill, but he is exceeding the shoe size, if you will here. I think he has outgrown those shoes entirely by this Cassante performance. He's doing incredibly well. 40 CS lead, like you said, Gordo. A solo kill in his name, or rather 2 solo kills in his name, and just continuing his dominance here now. No objective spawning for quite a little bit, so I have to think Northwood want to try and regain some territory, because it just feels like Fisher have been slowly inching up the line of scrimmage, the line of vision for themselves as this game has gotten further, and Northwood have kind of just let it happen. They haven't really had a response.
Definitely. And this recipe, I mean, this is really the big play styles for these two teams starting to clash up against one another. Northwood, one of the things that's really carried them to this peak, to exceeding expectations and making it to top 6 here, hasn't been the rookies so much. It's really been mostly about the veterans showing up and playing some of the best League they've ever played. And among those has been Izo, really having a fantastic time in the top lane this tournament so far, but now starting to struggle here. We'll have to see how Northwood are going to be able to accommodate that. Reppy has done very well so far in this first game. He's got the lead individually. Let's see if they're going to be able to find a way to play around that.
They will spot out Keel on the Herald, and Shockwave is available for Ralik, but he's being completely zoned off. Izo, though, has to fall back quickly.
Yeah, Bajani has got that third and Tofo strike to pull him back in. Meanwhile, here
boy.
comes Reppy looking for the cutoff. The ulti combo out of Northwood is clean, but these are some very tanky targets. Bajani still standing strong. Footworks his way back out of there. Clyde's back behind, but again, very tanky targets. Clyde, it just does nothing. It just gets Keel into a safer position. 4 members all on towards Bajani, trying to take him out. All out over the wall. He finishes off Izo. He's still standing. Enthralled, throwing out autos.
Bajani!
As well. Bajani stands and fights in a 2 versus 4 and comes out stronger for it.
Somebody tell Bajani to yield as he is just going absolutely crazy.
They're not done yet. They're going to pin down RBM. Keel stays strong. They will finally be able to clean up Bajani, but Fisher College just accomplished so much. The topside duo of Keel and Bajani tank everybody for forever. They come out positive in the kill trade, and towers fall in mid and bot.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying that they came out positive on the top side, but it's the bot side that I am looking at, Gordo. 2 towers to Fisher College's name. A dragon coming up in 10 seconds here. Northwood have no vision of this area whatsoever. They have a timer to maybe scramble to acquire some. You can see the wards coming out from Clyde. The blue wards coming out from Enthralled as well, or I think Reppy actually as well. But I just don't think it's enough.
Izo dashing back away, getting chased by Keel. You saw what Fisher could do with 2 teammates. What can they do with 4? Got to be very respectful here from Northwood as they move on down. Fisher going to be able to secure themselves soul point off this one, and there is not a chance for Northwood to be able to fight them for it.
But I do like what Northwood are doing here. They're establishing a lot of vision, a lot of presence in the top side of the map. They're utilizing those grubs that they got earlier to try and get some damage on these towers. And it's just going to be up to Fisher to respond, but they are walking in blind here, so it might be a dangerous game for them to play.
Yeah, absolutely here. Reppy going to get an inner turret, has the backup of RBM, so that will get a nice influx of gold back in. But meanwhile, Bajani down to the bottom side looking to equalize. He fears no tree. Does not matter that Izo's here. Let's see if Clyde can make a difference. Probably unlikely. He's taking turret shots for fun, though. Bajani going to try to get his way out of here now. There's more members collapsing. Here's the Weaver's Wall out of Reppy, and I think this might just be a little bit too much, even for Bajani. He's likely going to fall down here. There's the all-out, trying to fight it out, looking to take out Reppy, will fall down. Reppy's on a rampage, and Northwood have a numbers advantage on the map for 35 seconds.
4 kills strong, 2 items acquired in less than 20 minutes. Bajani, certainly an Avengers level threat at this point in the game, and Northwood are treating him as such. But Izo, just a lowly tree.
Yeah, he's trying to do a Bajani impression here, but not working out. Keel going to go on a killing spree as he finishes that one off. Ralik going to take the last outer turret down for Fisher College. I mean, this is CLOL champion Bajani right here. I was able to come up with that win in 2022. Had DMK on his team back then, funnily enough. And oh boy, is he just performing up to the level in his first game back for 2024.
For sure, and you know, being teammates with some of these players for so long, I feel like so many players from both of these squads have had such historic careers, right? They have been around for so long in several different mediums, whether it be, you know, for some players it's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, now here in CLOL, but a lot of players that have been around for so long, and I feel like that experience is really coming out here for a lot of these members, and we're seeing them push their champions to their absolute limits, I feel, especially for Bajani, who's just been having such a pop-off game here on Cassante.
Yeah, really great stuff there. And that is going to be a move up through the bottom side for Bajani to just keep on taking control. Really crazy stuff so far out of him in game number 1 as start to calm things down a little bit. It's time to reassess for Northwood. They've got to get Enthralled stronger. They've got to be able to play through Reppy. And they're running out of structures to lose, especially with how low this top inner is. So if they could at least keep their base safe, they might be able to find a way to stabilize.
And I feel like Fisher, you know, a lot of their members are in the base now. You can see Keel and Ralik just getting back on the map, but they have the ability to go into the jungle of Northwood here. You can see the bot side. A lot of members of Northwood are huddled around that bush, but I feel like Fisher don't realize just how strong they are, how much territory they are able to garner with their champions. I feel like once they start to push that lead a little bit further, Northwood aren't going to have a lot of responses, right? Obviously, you have Reppy, but Fisher have so many tools to lock down Reppy, and once they do, I feel like there aren't a lot of options that Northwood have left in the tank for themselves.
Yeah, for sure here. DMK back to funneling in waves in the mid lane. Had a very quiet game on this Callista, but you know what? It's kept Enthralled down. Has a bit of a CS lead for themselves, and with other plays to play through, you'll take that, at least for now. That's what Northwood are telling themselves, though, as they look to stabilize. Izo's getting caught again, though, and he will be falling. He is not tanky enough.
No way out there, and the pink's coming out from the Baron, actually, and I love this call coming out from Fisher. They are 5 members strong. Izo going to be down for another, 25 seconds, but they're just going to take the resets instead. They are not going to push their luck. They're going to say, we have a very solid lead here. A lot of our champions are strong. I mean, that's just indicative from the gold bounties of how strong the squad is. So instead, they're going to go for the reset, going to get vision around this bot side like they have been doing so well all game, I might add, and just look to take this soul. And Northwood, they are going to have to go on a hope and a prayer for this fight.
All right, TP in coming through from Izo, looking for the Nature's Grasp engage. They could pull them back into this. Enthralled taking a chunk before things even get started. There's the Ishtal's impact over the wall, going to pull Izo out of position. He's going to try to start the fight off on towards Keel, but Keel is so tanky. Already Clyde trying to frontline with that unbreakable will, but it's not buying enough space or time because Bajani is just freaking invincible. He cuts through the support and is chasing down that 80 carry single-handedly. Enthralled's got no chance. He's got to pop that Feather Storm and get himself out to safety.
They get one, and Northwood are sent scrambling. They cannot contest this dragon. This will be Soul at 22 minutes here for Fisher College. Northwood desperate at this point in the game. If they can find a pick, maybe turn that onto a Baron. But even then, I feel 4v5, Fisher are still favored with the Soul and just how strong a lot of their members are.
Over the wall once again. Keel looking to get on towards Izo, cuts him off from behind. Keel advancing forward, gonna find Enthralled, and it will be finished off by DMK. Now the knockup's coming through. DMK going to be clapped on towards the other side. RBM managing to stay alive ever so slightly, does pick up one reset, but it's a bait as he falls down to Bajani. Rollick throwing through the clockwork wind up on the backside, setting up for Bajani to finish off another kill, and Reppy, the one holding all the gold. Clyde will give his life to try to protect him, but it will be a one fight for Fisher. 4 members down for Northwood, only DMK missing for Fisher. They're going to take that Genji Baron buff.
Absolutely, and Reppy sent home on a wall will ride that away from the terrors of Fisher College as they continue to circle the Timberwolves in this game number 1. Soul plus the Genji Baron, and it just feels like this, at this point in the game, it's Fisher's game to lose, not necessarily Northwood's game to win.
Absolutely agree with you there. It's starting to feel like you got to think about game number 2 a little bit here if you're Northwood. You find yourself down over 6K. The Soul has already been secured, and your base is going to be under threat from this Baron buff for the next 2.5 minutes. RBM found here by Keel. TP being channeled by Rollick. They just want to collapse on him right here. Shockwave going to get buffered. Very nicely done by RBM, but he'll be able to run out to safety and be chunked out, losing this inner top turret, but otherwise safe.
But it will be another turret going over to Fisher College as a result. And Bajani just casually diving the turret onto Enthralled.
Yeah, really, really tough to actually do anything about Bajani here. He's just gotten himself so far ahead, and the siege is unrelenting. That top inner turret will fall on down. 13-5 on the scoreboard. Fisher College just looking to finish off a couple more inners. They've still got this Baron buff for over half the duration, and they don't really have a need to leave. As long as they play respectfully, as long as they don't give up anything silly, they can keep pushing their advantage, but they're going to take a synchronized recall here. Just make sure that they can spend their money and get back out on the map.
And they got a lot of it to spend, right? I mean, look at that. 7 towers to their name, 4 dragons to their team. The Baron still going to be active for about another 1.5 minutes here, so plenty of pressure still available for Fisher to exert. And it looks like they might have caught a mad cow out of place.
Yeah, it's Clyde again being found, just trying to secure vision for the team, but he will be punished for that good deed. Rallick cleans up that kill. Now, meanwhile, Fisher looking to start things off on the other side. Bajani has found his lane opponent. Since I hope you haven't forgotten about me, we're not done yet in game number 1. In fact, we're just getting started, and Tofo strikes back in. Will not choose to commit the all-out. They're going to be happy with just that one pick onto Clyde, and they're going to reset for another push at bot side. Over the wall, Keel looking to get started onto Izo. That was Shockwave coming out. A little miscommunication from the Fisher team as they do not manage to pull anybody back in.
And Keel just skitters away, right? Has the phase rush, has the ghost, and just decides, hey, I messed up, but I live to fight another day, and he is still plenty healthy. All the members of Fisher are plenty healthy as they lay siege, lay waste to the base of Northwood. Will get 2 inhibitors.
Ooh, there's a double impale out of Keel, but he does manage to stay strong. Will get revived back up by that handshake. Feather pull from Enthralled is good, but the damage just is not manifesting. DMK arrives with an extra spear to finish off that target, and that will be only 2 members left for Northwood. That'll be Fisher College closing out the first game before too long. Reppy making a last stand, gets hit up, gets knocked aside. Clyde by in space, takes down 1. Reppy's still standing, but nobody will get in the way of Fisher taking the first game of the series.
A clean game from Fisher through and through from minute 1. It felt like they tracked RBM. They knew where this Viego was at all times. They were always on the objective first, and they have just dominated in this first game.
Really great stuff there, especially out of Bajani. I mean, you can't say enough good things about his performance in game number 1. Was the big question mark, he and Rollick both, what does Rollick's champion pool look like past Talia? What does Bajani's champ pool look like at all? So we haven't seen him play CLOL all year long. Well, the answer to both of them is looking pretty good. Bajani gets back on an old favorite in the Cassante. The Oriana comes out in Rollick, and both of them look great.
For sure, and I'm not currently accessing the Twitch chat, but I guarantee I click on there and I will probably see, the Cassante Showmaker copy pasta somewhere in the chat because of the plays that Bajani made in that game. So yeah, a clean Cassante performance, a clean performance overall from Fisher. And if they keep this form, then this is definitely a worrying sight for Northwood going against this team.
Absolutely here. And with that, let's throw it to a quick break as we get ready to get into draft for game number 2, and we can get our boys back on here to talk about it on the analyst desk. We'll see you guys in just a couple of minutes.